Foundation myths of Korea. Founding figures in Korea. Dangun, Giza, Riman.
So if we look at the meaning and the function of foundation myths related to Korea, we're going to examine how this then functions in modern day Korean identity and the creation of modern Korean identity.
Have you heard of Dangun, Giza, Riman, and Jumong? 먼저 바뀔 것의 김수로.
When we think about Korea, there are actually a variety of foundational myths and figures. But the predominance of the myth of Dangun takes place over other founding figures from the 19th century. And part of the reason is because Dangun is considered to be the pure progenitor of the Korean race. In the late 19th century, Koreans were struggling with questions about what does it mean to be Korean? Who is Korean? What makes somebody Korean? And where do we come from? How do you become Korean? Or can you become not Korean or un-Korean? And is Koreanness absolute, or is it just a matter of different degrees? So these were questions that from the 19th century Koreans were starting to grapple with in order to define what Korea was and what it meant to be Korean. Let's start off with the legend of Dangun. So the legend goes that there was a god and he saw the area in Korea, which was old Joseon, and decided to settle there. And there was a bear and there was a tiger, and they both wanted to become humans. So they approached the god and they said, what can we do to become human? And the god told them, you have to take this mugwort or suk and garlic, and you need to go inside a cave and stay there for 100 days. And if you can endure that for 100 days, when you come out, you will be human. So the tiger was not able to do this, but the bear did. And when the bear emerged from the cave, she was a woman and eventually married the god. And the god and the bear woman had a son who was Dangun. Because this is a very widespread legend here in Korea, and you can ask almost anybody and they will know who Dangun is because children learn about Dangun from a very small age. We will see this video here now.
Korean history starts with Dangun, the legendary founder of Go Joseon, the first ever Korean kingdom. It's a story of myths and legends that give us a glimpse in the history and folklore of Korea. The legend is the first story in the Samguk Yusa, the memorabilia of the Three Kingdoms, which was written in the 13th century. The legend goes that Hwan In, the king of heaven, was asked by one of his younger sons, Hwan Eung, to send him to earth to rule his own land. Hwan In looked at the mountains of earth and chose Mount Taebaek, which means Grand White Mountain. Taebaek Mountain is the ancient name of present-day Paektu Mountain in North Korea. I'm not talking about the Mount Taebaek in South Korea in this legend. The King of Heaven opened heaven and sent his son down to earth for the sake of humanity. Hwanung descended to earth with 3,000 followers and 3 heavenly seals of authority or treasures. He established a sacred city near sacred sandalwood on the peak of Taebaek Mountain. The sacred city was called Shinshi, or Spirit City. Amongst his 3,000 followers were the Master of Wind, the Master of Rain, and the Master of Clouds. Hwanung designated them as his ministers, and a government was established with 360 departments or elements of life to rule with laws and moral codes. Some of these departments were hunting, fishing, medicine, education, the arts, agriculture, determination of good and evil, and so on. These elements of life were basically gifts that Hwanung gave to humanity. One day, a she-bear and a tiger came to see Hwanung and begged him to become human beings. Hwanung gave them a chance and agreed to their demands on 2 conditions: that they ate only mugwort and 20 garlic bulbs, both considered sacred food, and he told them that they have to stay in a cave for 100 days. The tiger couldn't do it and left. The bear stayed in the cave and, after 21 days only, was transformed into a woman. The former she-bear, now called Ungnyo, was very happy and grateful, but she felt lonely and wanted a child. She went to the sacred sandalwood tree on the peak of Mount Taebaek and prayed for a child. Hwanung was moved by her prayers and offerings and transformed himself into a male human and mated with her. 9 months later, she gave birth to a son, Dangun. His name means altar prince or sandalwood. Legend has it that Dangun founded the first Korean kingdom, Go-Joseon, or Ancient Joseon. It's believed to have been established on October 3rd in the year 2333 BC. Its capital was near what is now Pyongyang in North Korea. Dangun later moved the capital to Asadal, which was on present-day Mount Guol in Hwanghae Province in present-day North Korea. Dangun ruled over his country for 1,500 years. Dangun abdicated and later retreated to the mountains, becoming a Sanshin, mountain spirit, at the venerable age of 1,908 years old. October 3rd is National Foundation Day in South Korea, called Gaechonjeol. Stay tuned for more on Korean history. Thanks for watching.
So, as the video has indicated, there are different founding figures other than just Dangun. There was also someone named Kija and someone named Wiman. So, it is said that Kija came from a declining dynasty from China. And because the dynasty was in disrepair and there was all kinds of political turmoil, this person, Kija, decided to come over to Joseon and started ruling over Joseon, bringing with him Chinese institutions and governance. It is not quite sure exactly what his ethnic origins were, but the important point was that Kija brought with him a more advanced and developed form of governance. This occurred around the 11th century BCE. It is said that he is the relative of the last Shang dynasty in China. But it's unsure whether or not he displaced Old Joseon or Gojoseon and then started a new one, or if it was just a natural progression. The third founding figure is Wiman Joseon, and again, his ethnic origins are unknown. So it's unsure as to whether he originally was from the Korean Peninsula, had moved to what is now known as China on the mainland there, and then returned to Joseon, or whether or not he was originally from the Chinese mainland and then came over. So it is unclear, and we're not exactly sure what his ethnic origin is, but the fact that we don't know the ethnic origins of Kija and Wiman Joseon indicates to us that this was really not an issue back in the ancient period or in the medieval period when these stories were circulating widely, and that people did not define their identity based on just ethnicity. So as you can see from the timeline of the ancient period, it is based on these founding figures. So starting with Old Joseon or Gojoseon, which is when Dangun supposedly established the original kingdom or state of Joseon, followed by Kija Joseon, and then Wiman Joseon, and then moving into the Three Kingdoms period. So what are the modern implications of these three founding figures for us today? Well, if we look at the case of Kija and Wiman, they brought with them advanced political ideas, concepts, and culture. And because they are considered to be higher sources of civilization, at a time when Korea was a part of the larger Sinocentric order, this was important for Joseon or for Korea to identify themselves with this higher, more advanced civilization. But whether or not this is historically verifiable is up for controversy. And many historians still debate about it, but at least we can see that it tells us at the time what was important to the people who put emphasis on whether or not it was Dangun, Kija, or Wiman.
These are the keywords for this class. Dangun, Kija, Wiman. Identity, Korea.